I'm Jodie and I shoot compound. Welcome to Merlin's Archery Adventures.
Okay, so I'd like, if I may, to talk to you briefly just about the fundamentals of anchor point and release. Now, I get loads of messages from people asking about arrow tuning, especially traditional archery arrow tuning. And one of the things I always say to people when they want to tune in their arrows is I look at their release, I ask them how their release is, because it's pointless tuning your arrows unless you've got a consistent release. Because if you haven't got a consistent release, you can be affecting the string in many ways, putting various movements on the string that shouldn't ought to be there, and you're going to get funny arrow readings. So before you start tuning your arrows to absolute perfection, you need to nail down a consistent release. Now, I find with the release the thing is with archery, especially the instinctive style of archery I do, but a lot of the stuff I say it works across the board. You've got to find your own path, and you've got to find what's comfortable for you. And there's no good trying to emulate exactly how somebody else releases, because they're not the same as you. You need to find your groove. You need to find what's comfortable. Yes, there's a polar right and a polar wrong, but there's a lot of grey areas in archery, and there's always going to be someone telling you you're doing it wrong. But yeah, the key is to find your own path and find what works for you. Find a style that works for you. Now, for me, when I release, what I tend to do, again, coming at it from a traditional point of view, but the theory is the same across all forms of archery, is what you want to be doing. You want this arm to be coming back on the same plane as that the arrow is going forward. So if you're at full draw and you release your arrow and you're doing this, it's called plucking. You're going to affect the string in all sorts of ways, and the string's going to be sort of wobbling down the bow like this, and your arrow's going to be all over the place. It's not going to be consistent. Same if I've seen a lot of people release like this and drop their hand down. That's also going to affect the arrow in a number of ways. So what you really want to be doing is bringing your hand back and releasing in the same way as the arrow's going forward. Now, I achieved this by a friend of mine called Jeff Kavanagh in Canada. He sort of put me onto this, and it's a really good method. It's called the two anchor point method. And I have two anchor points. I've got one anchor point, which is the corner of my mouth. I drop my middle finger in the corner of my mouth. That's my first anchor point. I make a nice C shape with my hand, and I drop that little middle finger in the corner of my mouth, and that's my first anchor point. That C is hugging the contours of my chin, and I'm looking at what I want to shoot. And then when I release, I come back and I hit a second anchor point, which is somewhere around the bottom of my ear. So yeah, by hitting that second anchor point, I'm forcing myself to come back on the same plane as the arrow's going forward, giving me a much straighter arrow flight. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is the release. Now, you can't really have an anchor without a release. And the release is something that a lot of people struggle with, and I struggled with myself to a certain extent till I understood that you can't think of the release as an action itself. You have to think of the release as not doing an action. And when you're at full draw, you don't want to consciously let go of the string, because you're gonna affect the string in some way. Ideally, what you want to be doing is simply not holding the string anymore, just relaxing your hand. And if you've got proper back tension, as you relax that hand, your hand will automatically come back anyway, because you've got it loaded on your back. So you come up to full draw, you're ready, the shot's there, you just simply relax your hand and your hand comes back. Lovely. That is in essence what you want to be doing when you're making a release. I call it the 3 C's. You want it to be comfortable. So you want to make sure it fits you. It's the right sort of release for you. I've seen people get into all sorts of weird positions to get into a position to make a release that just doesn't fit them, and it's not going to do them any good. So you want it to be comfortable. You want it to be consistent. So you want to be doing the same thing every time. Consistency is so important in archery. It's one of the most important things. And I had a debate with someone not so long back about consistency versus form. Now, if someone who has got less than perfect form but is incredibly consistent, better than someone who has got incredible form but isn't very consistent. Now, I maintain that if someone is less than perfect, but they're very consistent in what they do and do exactly the same thing every time, then I think that's going to give them the edge. But that's by the by. So yeah, you want it to be comfortable, you want it to be consistent, and you want it to be concise. I've seen a lot of people, again, it all horses for courses, what works for you. But I've seen a lot of people do some very elaborate, dynamic releases, and it's very difficult to get a dynamic release consistent, I find anyway. But yeah, if you can keep it concise, if you keep it tight, keep everything short, keep everything simple, then you're going to get much better arrow flight out of your arrows. So yeah, that's just basically it. I just wanted to give you a little bit of information on anchor point and release. So yeah, just keep it simple, just keep it comfortable, keep it consistent, and keep it concise, and you should be getting better arrow flight. So once you've nailed your release, you can then start looking at your arrow tuning and things. I hope that's helped. It's only a little video, but I hope that's helped some of you. Well, you take care, shoot straight, and I'll see you on the internet. Bye bye.